It is difficult to measure such things. N from the recent floods. Especially when Da Nang was flooded for nearly a week, I felt that I needed to explain the risks coming. Nkhi talks about losing houses due to sea level rise. What do you imagine? It's not like the water in the glass you can see, flat and rising little by little horizontally. The sea, on the mainland or even underground, is not an invariant index, down when drought lasts more days each year. tThe whole week is as long as we see, and then the floods lasting for a week. A few weeks will take place more often, they appear longer. Longer, and longer. Finally, in a certain area, people are too tired of dealing with floods, so they gradually leave, even before these places are immersed in water permanently, flooded a lot. People will run up to higher, of course, because they are not constantly flooded in water. So these areas are not described as underwater. People will not be compensated or not considered a victim of climate change even though they have to endure the consequences from this situation. N is not difficult to explain the mechanism of floods, if the height of the ground compared to sea level, as in some areas in the Mekong Delta, is 50 centimeters, meaning that if you dig 50 centimeters deep into the ground, you will find water. This means that only 50 centimeters on the top of the ground can absorb rainwater. Suppose this 50 centimeters absorbs 25 centimeters of water and within a week or a few days, the rainfall is greater than the ability to absorb. The place will be flooded, of course. The height of each place is different. The 40 centimeters high places will be flooded before places with an altitude of 60 centimeters. It takes a certain amount of time to penetrate the rainfall, especially when the water has absorbed into the ground. So if it rains and stops, repeating like that, making the ground wet, when there is another rain, regardless of whether big or small, will be able to cause a new flood. So, the higher the sea level, the more places are flooded, especially in low-lying places such as the Mekong Delta, the coastal areas of Vietnam, and some places in the Red River Delta. There will be more problems that arise in addition to flooding. For example, buildings damaged by moisture because the foundation is often in a very wet land. In general, these places will not be able to stay in the long run. Does not improve much. Statistics show that landslides in the Mekong Delta are increasingly fierce. In 2018, the Mekong Delta region had 562 riverbanks and coastals, with a total length of 786 kilometers, including 42 extremely dangerous landslides. In the first half of 2020, Tho City alone occurred nearly 20 landslides, nearly double compared to the same period 2019, affecting 37 houses, including 4 apartments completely landing. Many localities in Long An, Tien Giang, have to announce an emergency of landslides, the areas with the risk of flooding, as soon as possible, and trying to rebuild their lives in a safer place. This risk is moved to safer places. This will ensure an orderly relocation process, help minimize risks and loss of income or capital for the poor. It will also help make infrastructure planning, fully support new areas that are about to be built. After that, the abandoned land can be reused to plant mangrove forests and other natural living environments, both against climate change and protect areas in the mainland. The desire and hope of a foreigner living in Vietnam. Finally, it is Vietnamese who can decide their future to the unpredictable changes of the living environment. N. Sebastian Eskenazi.